Welcome back to Backroomconvo. I'm your host with the most, Lesego M, aka Shoot Your Shot, and maybe you might get a chance to call me Daddy like Cairo. Listen, if you are a fan of port, stay tuned because you might like what we're cooking. And the song of the day is 101 Eastbound, which was remade or remastered in 2021. Because the original version, as I explained on the first segment or the first episode of the day, I did say it was remastered. The original version of the song was actually alive in a concert, so it was recorded on the live. So in 2021, celebrating the 30th anniversary, they decided to remaster the song, which was originally released in 1991 by the 4Play, which include people like Bob James and Eden East, just to mention a few. So currently the song sits at 11.3 million. Just to say, I don't want to be like read out the numbers and I sound like Zuma for some reason, because I did that earlier on and it wasn't nice because I kept on thinking about it. So yeah, I know like there's a lot to talk about today, and in this hour I was supposed to start on a lot of things on the first segment, but I couldn't speak about a lot of things at that time. But I think because now we're recording twice a day, I'm able to like squeeze in some of these things that we're supposed to talk about during the day now in the afternoon. You know what I mean? How was your day? Do let me know in the comment section how your day was, and let's take it through this hour and let's talk about it. Let's talk about it in this hour. I don't know what I was saying there, but let's talk about it in this hour. Let us know in your comment section what you think of the first episode that we released in the morning. So yeah, I think let's dive into it, man. People have been debating online. I don't know if there's even anything to debate about online. So people are saying Drake posted a picture on social media, never said anything about being in South Africa, and people assume, because from the picture it seems or it looks like he's in South Africa, because the picture it resembles. I don't know if y'all have ever been to Sex and World. You see, when you're in Sex and World, and when you look at your right, is it your right when you are facing Joburg, when you are facing it, Alex? You see, when you're in Sex and World, facing the direction of Alexander. I know Alexander is like, but the same direction as Alex, but in front of you. I don't know like what's directly in front of Sex and World, but whatever that's directly in front of like Sex and World, like the side Alex, that like whenever I know Sex and World is this side and Alex is the other side. So that side there, Alex, when you're facing that side, on your right when you're in Sex and World, there's like houses on top of the mountain, like those houses in the mountains, boom, 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 which are like facing over Sandton City, the city. Sandton City, the city. It's facing over Sandton, right? So Drake took that picture. So people are like, wait, is this picture taken from South Africa? Is Drake even around South Africa? Because we see these pictures. So the internet investigators started investigating. From the look of it, I won't lie, it really seems like Drake is around South Africa. But again, if I was to think about it logically, we talk about like, here we're talking about Drake, so the security concerns, that security breach, the things that you need to think about before you post certain things, and I'm sure he's aware of it. He just wouldn't post the picture just for fun. So I think he might have been, if he was, he might have been in South Africa, but when that picture landed, he was no longer in that place. I can guarantee you that, because you remember with the Takashi situation where Takashi was in LA, took a picture similar to the one that Drake took, right? So there's like Crips. If you don't know, like in the States, there's also gangs like Crips, and there's just a lot like LA Crips, Bloods, and like just read on that. There's like those different gangs in LA. I think it's the Bloods and the Crips, and I think Snoop is a Crip. Blueface? Blueface is a Blood, and like so forth and so forth. So the game is a Crip as well. So my point is, Takashi released that photo, posted the same way, like remember Pop Smoke also posted and happened to post an address of where he stays. and later on, people invaded his house, and unfortunately, he was shot and he died on the scene. You know what I mean? So I think for someone who is as big as Drake, because Pop Smoke was big, but not as big as Drake, you know. So imagine if that could happen to a smaller artist to Drake. Imagine Drake being the man or the man, you know what I mean? So I think if he only posted the picture after obviously security clearance to say no, you can release, we're no longer there, so you can post that picture. I think that might have been the case. Or if that's not the case, he's still around, there's heavy security, because obviously he did say on some of like the music video, he says it defeats the purpose. He was speaking about like his like the Secret Service and how, you know, like he rolls up with a lot of cars and security, you know, like the Secret Service, which is like a private company or a security company which, you know, works for the president and the state. And it's either he has that here in Mzansi, private security similar to that, or if not, he has those guys like the Secret Service working for him. I think that might be the case if he's still in that location where the picture is, because it's been trending the entire morning on the internet, or Twitter to be specific, you know. So I just wanted to weigh in on that to say, oh, like, given that it's Drake, you think twice about posting such because of the security breach. But nonetheless, though, let's move. So yeah, I'm trying to move as fast as I can. I don't know if anything that I'm talking about is making any sense, and if it isn't making any sense to you, do let me know in the comment section, and I'll clarify in the next episode tomorrow morning, and we'll just touch base on the things that you didn't understand. We'll touch base and move into like the day's content, you know. So yeah, you remember yesterday, I'm not sure if it was later on in the evening or in the morning where we had that episode. I was talking about the guy who jumped into like the chambers of the judge, and I was saying with the guy is an abuser. If he was able to do that to a judge who's a lady, jumped him and started beating her up, it's possible that he might be an abuser and might have done that to ladies behind the scenes, right? So he I think he got 7 felonies. He got some felonies and facing some battery charges, 7 battery charges, if I'm not mistaken. You do correct me. I do have the picture on social media as well. Please go out there and look it up. So yeah, so her sister came out today. He came out when they were releasing a statement. He said her sister's name is Ladonna Daniels. So he's the brother to Deobra. Deobra is the guy who was jumping the judge. So so Ladonna Daniels told the reporters, obviously after the court thing, he came out, he was telling the reporters that his brother has a long history of mental health. And I'm like, wait, so I understand what happened, you know, as far as him jumping the judge, jumping into the chambers, and him beating him up, and I'm like, what is to be done now? I understand even now. I think now it's too personal for even the judge. I think the judge has to be removed to get someone who's not personally involved into this, because now it involves something it's personal, you know. Like, now I'm gonna be petty and give you a sentence that doesn't make sense, you know what I mean? So I think it's even personal for the judge, in my own opinion. So I think the only way to go about this is to get a new judge and to even look at this thoroughly. And what I mean by thoroughly is that we look at the fact that her sister says bro is suffering from mental health. So if it's mental health, what are the measures that are being put in place to make sure maybe bro was undergoing an episode during the trial session, and which involved whatever that happened in that moment, and going to jail and giving him sentencing. You know, we might charge people or charge a person that's mentally ill without knowing, because we didn't know that he suffers from mental illness. You know, now that we know, like, what are we doing about it? You know, like, I think more than anything, as much as we are saying, bro, you have your charges outside of this, the one of jumping the judge. It's outside of that, you still have these charges to face. But at the same time, we need to be mindful enough to think about like the measures that are being taken into making sure you're being taken, your mental health is being taken care of. As much as you are going to prison and you go to rectify certain things, it's correctional service. So like to correct some of those mistakes in there, we also need to bear in mind that you are undergoing through a mental illness. Like I think as far as like we keep on talking about like how mental health has to be a part of the conversation, but I was looking at comments and people were saying that nah, this man is an abuser, this man is this man is that. And I was like, yeah, but are we the same people who are saying we are advocates for mental health? Now a lady of the brother who has like mental illness is coming out and saying, guys, I understand what happened, but I'm just saying on top of what happened, my brother has mental illness. And now that you think about it, I want us to talk about this. Now that you think about it, no one in their right minds can do that. You know what I mean? And I'm like, who? Like in the history, I don't know anyone in the history who has the balls or the guts to do that, to jump into the judges' chambers. Nobody in their right minds can do that. You know what I mean? I don't know anybody. I've never heard of anybody doing this. This is the first case, and given that it's the first case and just mental illness involved, let's check up. Let's do all those things if they are doing them. Kudos to them. You know what I mean? But I think as far as social media goes, for the fact that a lot has been said about the judge, the guy jumping him, and the sister is now coming out, I think it's only fair for even the state to come out and say, yeah, we do see or we'll look into like the fact that bro is mentally ill. We'll look into it and hopefully we'll get him help even when he is in prison, and this is how we are going to work it up. And I think it's very important to show we stand by people who are mentally ill. Like one thing that I love what Cat Williams said is like, he said, Kanye is a lot of things, bro. And even us as people around him, we don't even know what we want from him. The next thing, we want this from Kanye, we want that from Kanye, we want this from Kanye, we want that from Kanye. And at the same time, bro is mentally ill. He's bipolar. And when he goes through those episodes, some of us are coming out judging him. When all those things are coming out, the anti-Semitic comments that he was making, it's like, is bro okay? Who was asking? Who was assisting? Who was like, okay, this is happening. Maybe we shouldn't be listening to bro. Maybe bro should be taken off of social media, or like whatever he's saying in this period shouldn't be taken seriously because of the state, of his mind at that point. He's going through an episode. Like I feel like to a degree I agree with Kek. I agree with Kek that we don't understand Kanye, and I think this guy may also be misunderstood, in my opinion. You don't have to believe what I'm saying. You don't have to like what I'm saying, but all I'm saying is that let's stand. I know it's not like the favorable terms to favor the guy, but I think, in my opinion, it's a human thing to do. He has made a lot of wrongs and whatever. He jumped the judge, and there's additional cases that he has to face. Do that, but at the same time, let's be human enough to also take care of his mental needs. So I think for the states to do that, in the states, it's a big thing if they stand and say like, we are big on mental health, and actually show action behind it, and not just have like campaigns that are going up and saying, yeah, mental health, but when it's time to act, nobody's in the forefront. I think now it's the time to say, okay, like we'll look into this and we'll try and incorporate, and exercise the rights of people who are mentally ill in cases such as these ones, because it's a unique case. You know what I mean? And if there's any law that I don't know of that says no, bro is subjected from medical support or medical aid or whatever because he committed crime, like do let me know in the comment section. And if you still like agree with me, tell me, like why do you agree with me with what I'm saying? You know what I mean, on the comment section. And if there's anything that I'm missing, I know a lot of activists. I have a lot of activist friends, even like on my WhatsApp, and I know I have a lot of that. And this episode is one of those where I feel like they need to weigh in and like bring a different perspective to this matter, because there's a lot of like people are mental health activists. Shout out to Shaban Reedy. Shout out to Muteo Mukoto. So I'm just mentioning people who've been to the podcast who are like, big advocates for that, So shout out to Muteo Mukoto as well, who's like the semi-finalist for Miss South Africa 2023. Shout out to her for that. She didn't win, by the way, and I think I did come out and say Motelo didn't win. Shout out to Motelo as well, So I think I'd like to also have Tanya's opinion in this, and like, try and bring those people and hopefully like have it around table and like use this particular scenario to talk about and like break it down. Bring in someone who's into the law, the field of law, and bring in that perspective from a law angle, or like from a law aspect, to bring in the law aspect perspective, you get what I mean. So I think we also need to have those people and have this conversation further. And I think now it's at the right time to go over to an ad break. I know I've been talking a lot, and I think when we come back, we still have a lot of things to talk about, and I'm very excited to talk about those things with you and have you. And okay, I'll just talk about this when we come back after the break. I'm your host with the most, Lesego M, report, aka Shoot Your Shot, and maybe you might get a chance to call me Daddy like Cairo. Let's meet after the break. Cheers. Welcome back to Backroomconvo. I'm your host with the most, Lesego M, report, aka Shoot Your Shot, and maybe you might get a chance to call me Daddy like Cairo. It's the late night session. I know, like, this is one of those unique episodes that we have every once and again, and we plan to make it as often as possible. So the song of the day, as I mentioned earlier on the episode, the song of the day is 101 Eastbound, which was remastered in 2021. The song was originally released in 1991. The song was 5 minutes 56 seconds long and currently sits at 11.3 million on Spotify alone. That's an amazing song. It features people like Needham East and Bob James. So before we went over the break, we were talking about the mental health illness, because the guy who jumped into the judge's chambers, it's apparent or alleged that he has mental health illness, and I feel like we need to talk about that, even if these terms are not the most favorable terms for this conversation, but I think it's the good place to start, where it's like sensitive. Everything is sensitive, and I think it's proper if we could have someone from the law aspect of things, someone who's an activist, someone who who's a mental health activist, and we'll try and get those people in the podcast. And I know, Kuti, I've been always saying, Kuti, okay, we'll get this person, but we also need to understand, Kuti, these people are busy, and even I sometimes feel like, you become a burden to your friends, because now some of these people are my friends, and I'm like, I respect their time, and if they can make it, and we'll have this in future, maybe with different individuals, but I think for now, we'll use that as a reference point whenever we have that interview. And whatever question that you have, do make sure that you leave that on the comment section, and we'll compile those questions, and whenever you have those roundtable, I'll issue them out to every party that's involved and a part of the discussion, or the roundtable talk rather. So we were talking a bit about that because that came out, and we spoke about the fact that Drake might be in South Africa, right? So I did speak my piece on that and why I think he might and he might not be in South Africa. So I gave my perspective on that. So I wanted to speak on one other thing, I'm so sorry about that. Can I just do it one more time? So yeah, I just want to speak about, thank you. I just want to speak about Lil Nas X. There was a time he was releasing music videos that are satanic, and so as much as I know what I've spoken on matters regarding Doja Cat and Paint the Town Red, the song, which is currently doing well in the Billboard chart. I think the song's like number 4. Yeah, it is number 4. So it's doing well. Even when other people wrote her off or unfollowed her on social media, the song still did well. You know what I mean? And I'm like, maybe these streams are bought or like these streams are bought or whatever the case, but it's Doja Cat. Doja is big, bro. So I still say, with Doja, it's a unique situation. When I was speaking on Pin the Town Rate, the music video, people were saying, no, Doja is pushing this satanic thing. And I'm like, no, but guys, let's bring in a different perspective to this matter, because I think personally, Doja is an artist and he might be expressing himself creatively the best way he sees fit. And for those of you who don't know, she is afraid of the dark, or because I have seen an Insta post where she was like outside and it was dark and she was afraid and boom, 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 whatever that happened. I was like, she's still human, satanic or not, But in that music video, there was just a lot to talk about, but people failed to get the message. And I feel like as much as he's an artist, one thing that she failed, and I think she might have grown from it, is the fact that I think Jay-Z interprets this very well, because he says, your audience, you need to carry them, you need to feed them music like they're kids, like even I think with the videos that you put out, you need to feed them like they're kids in the language they understand, and still not lose the element of creative mindfulness, like being creative, like creative mindfulness. You need to have that, like the creative mindfulness, and still feeding those people in like that thing. I'm feeding these people like a kid in language they understand, because now there's this creative element from Doja, which is like very raw, and I like it and I understand it, and not a lot of people are like me and will understand where she comes from and the message she is trying to portray in that music video. Not a lot, because she was being bashed on social media, being called all these words. And even when she was doing like the promo for the music, she went out to stations. She went out to take pictures in like New York, the railroad, or like the train, where the train is. I don't know what they call that in the States, but she did go out and actually do that. And I was like, yeah, that's the promo for the song. That's even before the song came out, and when it came out, it did well, despite the fact that people were unfollowing her. But she has a huge following, as I said, and that's why the song is on like number 4 on Billboard. Shout out to Tyla, by the way. I was supposed to mention this on the earlier episode. Tyla is sitting at number 7 on the Billboard chart. South African child, really been well for herself. Shout out to her, man. And I thought that was very interesting to highlight, because I don't think we've had someone who's like Tyla in the charts, and I think that when we're getting people to that place of recognition, or counting to that place of recognition where it's a part of like all these conversations from like music. I'm a piano, Tyla is there, comedy, Trevor Noah, movies, Tucson Bedouin, like who's that Chinese Deron is also into movies, like we have those few individuals in these pockets. We have people like Elon Musk, who doesn't talk about being South African and so, but we also have him, so yeah, like that was there. Like I just had to mention that in passing though, so I was giving that a shout out. So like that's the message, and the reason I was bringing that all up is that Lil Nas X, I saw that music video and I was like, nah, this is like, it was released at the time where the LGBTQ plus community was like saying, I identify as this, I identify as a cat, I identify as a dog, I identify as a woman, that's when he released that music video. And I think he used that hype for that music video, and at some degree it left him high and dry, because he never was left with like the core support or like a core fan base, because he used the hype. So people who were supporting him rather, the people who were like a part of that hype, and as soon as when the hype died down, he lost those people. So even in the song, you can ask me about the song that Lil Nas X took out at that point. I wouldn't tell you the name of the song, but I know at the time I did see that it was a part of a conversation of some sort. And the fact that I think, as I said before, whenever like everything is polluted, like when I speak of pollution, I mean whenever people like just put out their opinions before, or their opinions are so strong about something, before I actually see something or see what they're talking about, I tend to like see more of what they talk about from that. And it's not normally the genuine thing to do when you're like, and like if you want to view something from like a raw and natural, or like like 100% organic perspective, if I may say so, like, because already your opinion is filtered by the message that's being portrayed by like the media, or like the people in the forefront. It's polluted by that. And I think yesterday I even made an example about I even made an example about soccer to say, if you haven't watched the game and you don't know the score, you're excited to watch it because you don't know what happened in the game. But as soon as someone tells you what happened in that soccer match, it tends to spoil everything for you, because you know the score, you know who scored. That match becomes boring for you. At this point, you're just going to watch highlights and move on, right? Because they messed it up for you. And same goes with movies. Like those spoiler alerts that people tell you, you don't enjoy the movie because everything you were supposed to enjoy about the movie, everybody has told you about it. So it's like, like there's no element of surprise. At this point, you're just watching the movie for just watching the movie, Like that's how I feel with like the music. And that's why Lil Nas, when he did that, it didn't last. And now he's releasing more music and he's using God. After using the hype of the people who are saying satanic, he's coming back. He's like, I'm coming back to God, and using, he releases a video. I don't know if it's a music video or if it's a skit where he's portraying God, the cross, him being in the cross. It made a lot of people angry, I must say. It made a lot of people angry. And I think one thing that he needs to think about, or people around him, or his managers, or like, advisors, they need to tell them, I think what he's doing is very wrong. I won't get like the core audience using that. He might get like a fewer number of people, but I think to speak in touch, or to be in touch with like, or to have a core audience, like a cult following, you need to be genuine. Like Kendrick Lamar has a cult following. For my fellow South African, you can speak about Kelvin Momo, who also has a cult following. We can mention those people. I think if you want to build such, you need to build it on honesty, and to an extent where like we talk about things that are relatable to you and to them. I'm not saying with him you shouldn't speak your truth or like express yourself creatively and push whatever the record label is saying you must put out. I'm saying with creative mindfulness is very important, and the story you're trying to tell to the world, that's how you win people over. You don't win them with like Stefani or whatever they call it. You don't win people over with those things. You know what I mean? I think to be relatable is to have honesty with yourself, and everything else. You saw Al Pacino. I'll speak about Al Pacino. Someone is it Al Pacino? I'm not sure if it's Al Pacino, but I think it's Al Pacino. They were asking him, what's like, why is he like always shooting and killing people in his movies? It's like, why don't you change? I think they were asking him, why doesn't he change his approach to movies? It's like, what I do is like I make movies for myself. I think he's Al Pacino, is the same guy. I might be like misreferencing or like paraphrasing whatever that was being said there, but you get the idea though. But he's like, I'm making all these films for myself. I don't care what people think, and if that's Lil Nas X's perspective, it's dope. Okay, like let's stop talking about it. But if it's not, you need to change it. If it's like the Al Pacino, like if they like it, they don't, but I'm just gonna do me. I'll shoot whatever, I'll whatever, I'll do whatever in this because this is what I like. And I can only hope there are like 1,000 other people who are as crazy as I am, who are as crazy as I am to like the things that I do, you know, like find the plot of relatability with the people, you know, like that are listening to your music, you know, and also like include like the creator mindfulness to everything that you do. You should be fine. And that's my perspective on Lil Nas X. What he's doing now with this campaign, saying whatever he's saying, I think it's very wrong and I don't support it. And moving right along, I wanted to, before I recorded this podcast, this episode, I realized there was something I had to talk about, and this should have been the first thing on top of the agenda, but you know, Drake is bigger than this. So the way of Honda, an electric Honda that's been released, which you can actually drive using a joystick, a PlayStation 5 controller. For my South African people, that's a joystick. So using a joystick, you can actually drive a car. So Hyundai came out with the concept car, and during their presentation, they actually rolled out the car. And the guy who was doing the presentation, I forgot who his name is, or the name wasn't mentioned here, but he brought out the car using a PlayStation 5 controller, and he brought the car to the stage. And I'm like, wow, this is amazing, you know. And this speaks again. I think we've had this conversation about leaving the world behind, which is the movie. For those of you who have it, please go out and watch that movie. I don't like the ending, but it is what it is. And there is a huge message behind this. And I like the fact that even Michelle Obama, at least the fact that Barack Obama is very informed and he gets a lot of things and messages, everything around the world. He knows everything about everything because of the information, access to information like that, you know. And I'm like, okay, he went out to even like him and his husband, Barack and Michelle Obama, created a movie called Leaving the World Behind. And it was saying a lot of things. Tesla was there, and like that was just a mess. It was just a mess in that movie. It was like, are you trying to pass a message? And to top that off, Tesla actually called back, you know, it issued out a statement that anybody that bought a Tesla from 2011 to 2023, they should bring back those models of Teslas. Those models that have like, or is it auto-controlled where the car drives itself? Whenever you have that version of Tesla, you need to bring it back. I think they need to do some adjustment, you know. So, and I was like, oh, maybe this is something to talk about with you. This is something to talk about. What did Elon Musk see in this? And what did, you know, like, what's the message here? Like, I'm trying to read between the lines, but hey, I guess only time will tell. So that's very interesting to talk about. I thought that also might add into like the topic of that movie, you know, like Leaving the World Behind. I think that was some of those things that we had to talk about. And I know even today we didn't have enough time to talk about what like I had planned for the entire episode for today, but there's still tomorrow, and I hope that I cover everything tomorrow, because I think I have a lot to say about a lot of things, and I don't really have a lot of time that I put for myself for the episode, but I'll try and squeeze everything tomorrow. I know we didn't cover everything. I'm your host with the most, Lesego M, Report, aka Shoot Your Shot, and maybe you might get a chance to call me Daddy like Kyle. Let's meet tomorrow on another exciting episode of Backroom Convos. Cheers.